You're listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 56. Today we are hearing how we can uplevel our smoothies, but also how this brilliant product idea was born and turned into a successful business. So if you're wondering what to do next with your idea, how to stay on top of your to-do list even with another full-time job, how to navigate the ups and downs of starting a business, but also how to create the right mindset and self-love practice to keep you strong throughout, today's episode is for you. So grab yourself a cup of organic tea, get comfy, and let's dive on in. You are listening to Love Unplugged, a podcast focused on love in all its forms. I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, hopeful romantic and founder of Project Love. I found that too often love is set aside or taken for granted, and we tend to forget how to care for ourselves and our important relationships in the day-to-day chaos. So let's slow down. Tune in and begin our journey of rediscovering love. From honest heart-to-heart conversations with real couples and knowledgeable guests to deep dive reviews of new products and services that will help you feel beautiful inside and out. If you're looking for relatable advice or wanting to be inspired by real-life love stories, you've come to the right place. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hello, loves. Today I am happy to welcome Chelsea Hodge. She is the founder of Blender Bites, which are 100% organic, plant-based frozen superfood pucks that take all of the work out of making your favorite smoothies. Now, I use them regularly and I cannot rave about them enough, so I'm so happy to have her join us today. So welcome, Chelsea. I'm so honored to have you as my guest, and I'm so excited to learn all about your story and advice. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Chelsea Hodge, and I'm the founder of Blender Bites. I live in Cole Harbour in downtown Vancouver. I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, a little town called Gibsons, BC, and moved over to Vancouver for university when I was about 20 years old and been living down here ever since. I went to Capilano University and did my business degree. I also studied international business at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, and worked for lots of different companies, including Vega, which is sort of where I got my idea for starting Blender Bites and sort of developed my passion for plant-based foods.
That's awesome. So I want to get into the meat of this. I'd want to talk about the process of creating Blender Bites.
Sure.
So let's break it down for everybody. What came first in starting your business? Was it deciding what type of product you were going to offer? How did you decide exactly on that product? What was your process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, first of all, I always kind of knew that one day I'd be an entrepreneur. I had my first business, like at 6 years old, sitting in my parents' pantry, reselling them all of their canned goods that they'd already purchased. I had a business called Junior Jewelers at age 6. My Barbie dolls all had businesses. They worked, they didn't play. They had a travel agency that they worked 8 to 5. So business has always been my passion. And then one day I was literally at home. And, at that point I was working at Vega. So I was making probably 2 to 3 smoothies a day. And I just kind of got tired of the process. I'd been buying kale and, different ingredients that I would leave in my fridge. And then I'd go away for the weekend and, I'd come home and it had all gone bad. So one day I was just like, there's just got to be a better way. There's just got to be something that I can do to make this process easier. So I started to put all of my raw materials into my blender. And, my ingredients like frozen strawberries and kale and spinach and all my greens and different fruits. And then I pureed it one day and I poured it into a muffin tin. And I just put that muffin tin into my freezer. And then the next day I was like, oh, this is interesting. And it was a little puck that I could pop out in 2 seconds and throw into the blender and add in my scoop of Vega or whatever protein powder I was using at the time, or even just add with almond milk. And it was an instant smoothie. And there was no cleanup. There was no mess. There was no waste. And I just kind of thought to myself, this is really interesting. I think a lot of people could benefit from this product, especially, young professionals like myself or busy moms that, want to save that extra 10 minutes in the morning and not have to leave their house, with a messy kitchen. So I kind of, took the idea to some friends, and I was actually very fortunate to work for Vega at the time because Charles Chang, who's the founder of the company, became a good friend and a mentor to me. So, I went to Charles with this idea and he said, Chelsea, it's not a matter of whether or not you should do it, it's who's going to do it first. So that kind of, gave me the insurance that I needed that this was a good idea. And I kind of ran with it. So, I started to create different flavor profiles in my kitchen and, experimenting with different flavors and different ingredients. And I just knew that moment. I'm like, okay, this is my big idea. I'm going to run with this. So that was a kind of a cool moment.
So I kind of want to dial this back a little bit to your childhood.
Yeah.
That is very unusual for a child to
Yeah.
be dreaming about,
Oh, yeah.
running her business or even having her business at that young age, and her Barbie dolls.
Yeah, my
Like,
Barbie dolls. Actually, I went back to my parents' house last summer, and my mom, she's like, "Well, do you want to throw all the stuff out?" And I went and looked at all my toys, and I actually had like a legitimate Barbie office, and my Barbie dolls wore power suits, and then they all drove red Ferraris, and they were very much all business centered. And my mom's like, "Chelsea, that was your life. Like that's all you wanted to do is like talk about business and run a business." So from a very very early age, I knew that was going to be my forte for sure.
so how did that get instilled in you at such a young age?
I can't explain it. No, my mom's a teacher. My dad, worked in the trades. Like I definitely don't have, I mean, but actually my great grandfather owned a very successful chain of stores in Scotland called Mitchell Hodge and Sons. So the entrepreneurship gene is in there somewhere for sure. So, and my grandmother actually owned a business. So I think it definitely comes from both sides. But for me, it was always just my dream. And I've been on Dragon's Den before for a different company. And, it's just, yeah, very much been a part of my life. So building a business is just sort of my hobby. It really is. It consumes my whole day and night.
So besides your businesses as a young child,
Yeah.
you've been on Dragon's Den. Was
Yeah.
that with a different business that
Yes.
you've
That was
also
another
founded?
company. Yeah. So other than Blender Bites, I also do some investing. So I consult for the public markets. So after Vega, I worked for, various public companies. So I still consult for public companies in the plant-based sector right now, and also in the mining industry. So I've always very much have multiple things, multiple channels of revenue coming in. I think that's actually quite important. Starting Blender Bites, I bootlegged that for I'd say about 4 years. So I was actually started the company while I was working full time for another job. But that's sort of what you have to do. I think it's actually really important and very flexible. If your boss can offer that sort of flexibility, then I think that's great. I mean, I was very lucky. I had some great bosses that supported me starting my own ventures, and it's one of the reasons that I was able to be successful.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome. Okay. I want to get into this product development
sure.
just because I think it's so fascinating. So you have your 3 different blends
Yeah,
or pucks that you offer.
yeah.
How did you go about creating the blends or the pucks? Like how did you enlist somebody's help in determining exactly what ingredients, how much of those ingredients you should be including,
Hmm.
coming up with the right flavor profiles? Like how did you do that? How did you go about testing it to make sure that people were actually going to enjoy it?
Yeah. I don't think I followed probably, let's say, the rules. I mean, there's certain things you should do. There's market research that you should probably do. I kind of just went and, I said to myself, well, if I like this, then majority of the people out there will probably like it. So, I researched sort of what were the 2 most popular flavor profiles for smoothies. And obviously that was a berry product and that was a tropical product. So that's what I went with. And then I added the greens blend. And I just sort of, again, from working at Vega, I kind of knew exactly what greens that I wanted to include, things like chlorella and spirulina, wheatgrass that were very, cleansing and detoxifying, full of nutrients. So I had a good friend actually that worked for a company that supplied greens powders. So that's where I sourced it from, and he helped me to sort of formulate and do all the dosages for the greens. And then I just literally sat in my kitchen and I just experimented, and I would change the recipe, and I probably went through maybe like 25, 30 different variations of different sort of fruit profiles. But one of the things is it comes down to cost of goods sold. So what you really need to do is look at, okay, so what are the most expensive ingredients and what are the cheaper ingredients? And obviously you have to tailor that recipe to sort of what makes it makes it work, right, for your bottom line. So actually working with the numbers that way is probably the way I created my recipe. But I only use 100% organic ingredients, so my costs are actually extremely high. Which is why we do have a higher price point at retail. But I didn't want to launch a product that was just another conventional product. I wanted to have organic ingredients. I wanted to have 7 greens, not just 1 or 2. We changed the taste a little bit. We added a couple other ingredients. We added the apple and the date because I wanted it to be a little bit more sweeter for the mainstream market. So now that we're national across Canada and we're in stores like, Sobeys, I think it's important that it has more of a mainstream sort of appeal to the main market. So adding a little bit of sugar helped us sort of open up the product to more of a, common market.
Amazing. Now, for those that don't know, I would love for you to give like a little bit of a highlight of what chlorella, spirulina, and wheatgrass offers as health benefits.
Yeah, no, for sure. They're detoxifying greens. So spirulina and chlorella are actually algae. So, like chlorella, for example, is one of the healthiest per gram products in the world. So it offers protein, it offers iron, it offers vitamin B12. It's full of nutrients. So a lot of vegan people actually consume chlorella as a way of getting iron. And same with spirulina, it's just highly detoxifying and cleansing for your body. It's a blood cleanser, so it offers a lot of nutrients. For somebody that's not necessarily consuming meat or is getting the B12 or the iron out of an animal product.
Gotcha. Okay. So before we dive into business a little bit more, I want to talk about these products. So you have the three different packs. What are the three different
Yeah,
flavors?
so we've got our two original products that we launched with were the greens and the berries, and that's organic strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and then the wheatgrass, chlorella, spirulina, spinach, broccoli, kale, and then the apple and date. And then the tropicals puck has organic mango, coconut, banana, and then the same seven greens powders, apples and dates. And then our latest product that we're just launching in 2 weeks is called our Vita Smoothie. So this is actually something I'm really excited about. It's going to be first to market in North America with an organic, whole food, plant based vitamin supplement that's put into the pucks. So it's like getting, instead of having to take a multivitamin in the morning, you're having a smoothie. The flavor is actually peach raspberry. So it's a peach raspberry smoothie that's enhanced with organic vitamins. It's just a total win. And I think it's going to be great for the market right now because everyone's sort of consumed with how to increase their immune systems and keeping healthy through all of this COVID situation. So I think it's really exciting to be launching a product like that right now.
I love that one. I'm definitely going to look out for it because I want to try it so bad.
Yeah,
I love peach.
peach raspberries. Yeah, it's really tasty.
Yeah. Which one is your personal favorite? And then which one is your most popular one?
For me personally, I like the greens and tropicals. I think the flavor profile is really unique. So, I just mix it with a little bit of almond milk and I drink it just like that. So that's probably my favorite. But our best seller, I would say, is probably the greens and berries. I think a lot of people, especially when they're buying berries, they want organic. Whereas, the mango and the banana actually have skins, but people buy organic berries. So that's important to have that. So organic, the greens and berries definitely is our top seller. But I'd say the mango is a close second. The tropicals is a close second for sure.
Awesome. So, what is the process like creating a business plan, sourcing the vendors, creating the packaging, deciding on your name, things like that? Like, how did you go about that? In which order?
Hmm. Wow. Well, I guess I probably came up with the brand name first. I think that's sort of just something that, I just thought about. I always keep a notebook beside my bed. That's another thing I've done my entire life. I come up with like weird ideas, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I just jot that down beside my bed. I've got prototypes drawn out in this little notebook. I've got different ideas. They just kind of come to me. So I've been very fortunate that way that, I've just sort of had this kind of light bulb moment where I just knew that this is a good name. But, I've always, taken my ideas and shared them with friends and mentors and people that I really respect in the business and sort of said, what do you think about this? And kind of get everyone's general opinion as to what they like the best. So that definitely helps. Packaging and branding, I think I lucked out with somebody from my local hometown in Gibson's called Top Shelf Creative. They did a fantastic job creating my packaging for me and sort of, the general idea. And then I kind of just knew what I wanted. So, we'd go back and forth on revisions. I mean, that process takes a long time. We can go back and forth on hundreds of revisions. So they have a lot of patience to be able to deal with me, that's for sure. But yeah, packaging and then just sort of doing the formulations. I think the hardest part for me through this whole process was finding a manufacturer. That was definitely our biggest challenge because when you first start out, you don't have a lot of volume. So you don't have big chains that are doing a lot of moving a lot of products. So you need to find a space or a manufacturer that will be okay with taking on small volumes. So what we actually did was we rented out a little popsicle shop in North Vancouver called Rico and Lalo. And so they were nice enough to lend us their facility on weekends. And, the only reason I'm here today is because of my family. I literally had my mom, my two aunts, and myself, and we were hand making every single puck in this facility for the first 3 years. So every single weekend, we were in there manufacturing product for 3 years. And without my family's support and without their dedication and, literally retired from their jobs and came to help me, and yeah, it's the only reason I'm here today. So we were able to sort of, get into some of the smaller stores. We were in Choices and Whole Foods and IGA and Fresh Street right off the bat. We were able to secure a really small little local distributor. called Summit Specialty Foods. They were great. They took a risk on me. And so we started to build out like the lower mainland. And then we got into some accounts in the Okanagan and Vancouver Island. And we just started to grow organically like that. And to the point where we got picked up by a national distributor last year. So now we sell across Canada. But, that transition from making it by hand, for 3 years into a phase into a manufacturing facility now that has capacity to basically supply the whole North American market. I mean, that step from there to there was quite big and cost a lot of capital. And it's scary, right? Of course. But so securing manufacturing and then securing the seed funding were probably my two biggest challenges, because when you first start out, you have an idea. Well, that's great. Everybody has ideas. We all have ideas. But finding somebody to take that risk that's willing to put their own money into something that's just an idea on paper. Especially when, this was my first company. I have no experience in starting a company and sort of everything that it takes to run a business. So to find that person that believed in me was a blessing. And then to have my family sort of support me in the manufacturing of everything was a blessing. So I've been very lucky. I think a lot of this is luck. Honestly, it really is. It's timing and it's luck.
Amazing. And a lot of hard work.
And hard work. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Dedication. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You have to have a strong mind, because, there's moments where you just kind of ask yourself, what are you doing? Especially when you're sacrificing a lot of your personal life and a lot of other things that, in your 30s that you expect to have, but you have to give up a lot of things to sort of be able to make a success. So yeah, it's tough sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to you mentioning that you also had another job while you were starting this company. So it was like your side hustle.
Yes.
How did you make that work? Like, how did you organize your time so that you were able to put your focus in the day job, because obviously you need to be able to have that focus there because they're paying you a salary, but also taking the time in the evenings, on the weekends, and staying consistent and dedicated to it so that you're able to move that side hustle forward?
Yeah, well, actually, again, speaking of luck, I was pretty lucky because I was working for a company called Left Coast Naturals. So I was actually a distributor rep. So I was in the grocery stores all day, representing, 15 to 20 different brands. So I had those relationships built. So, I had all the relationships with the buyers in the grocery stores already. So that was sort of something that really helped me, because they all were super supportive of me launching my own product. And then, they would say to me, of course, Chelsea, of course, we'll list this product. Like, good for you. They were also proud of me and wanted to support Blender Bites. So I think a lot of that was, being able to work at Left Coast and build the relationships at the same time. Right. So, but yeah, again, I would just come home at the end of the day and you're working till bedtime. And that's just sort of your reality of life. You're just sort of working nonstop. So, but at the same time, when it's a startup, it's exciting and it's fun. So it doesn't necessarily feel like work. It was just sort of like my hobby.
I love that when you're so passionate about something that it doesn't actually feel like work, even though it is hard work, you still enjoy doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. I love actually the creative process of starting a company. I love the innovation, the package design, like all of that is very, I don't know, it's just fun. I like that kind of thing. So, the starting of the company was actually my funnest part, probably. The execution is a different thing. Everybody likes to sort of be innovative and create something, but once you get it started and executing, that's a whole different ballgame.
That's so interesting, because with me, I'm the opposite.
Oh, okay.
So I can execute and implement the crap out of anything.
There you go.
When it comes to like innovating and like coming up with the idea, I'm like,
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's part of it all too, is you want to hire for your weaknesses, right? So eventually we'll get to a point where it's like, I want to create, be the creator behind, new SKUs and new products, and I'll have somebody running the company for sure.
Gotcha. So how do you stay organized throughout, those very challenging years of working basically like all day, every day?
Yeah.
How did you organize yourself so that you were actually accomplishing this task and the goals that you were setting out to?
Oh boy. A lot of Post-it notes, a lot of boards on my wall that I have, papers hanging off of, a lot of like journals. I probably have about 15 journals sitting on my desk right now. So, just kind of writing to-do lists. I think that's really key, and it feels good to sort of check a box too, right? So like being able to check that off at the end of the day feels good. But writing yourself notes. But I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've woken up at 3:00 in the morning and sent myself emails to do something the next day. Like things just come to you. You're just like, oh man, I can't believe I forgot that, right? Like it just kind of like pops into your head, and I'll wake up and I'll send myself emails. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm organized. I think I'm probably not organized. I'm kind of organized in my own way. I think it's kind of just like, my own little chaos that I have here. But I think, for somebody else that's starting a business, I think, definitely utilizing some tools like a CRM system. Obviously, being very familiar with Excel and how to create spreadsheets for yourself. Like, there's a lot of tools that you need to have in place. But I think everybody kind of comes into their own little groove. That's definitely something I found. I have my own little groove going on. But also having people like, I have bookkeepers and accountants, and I sort of just dump a pile of papers off to them, and they help me organize my life too. So having the right people in your life to help you organize is essential.
What did you struggle with most when you were starting your business, and how did you navigate or overcome it? So was it, limiting beliefs that you've had to kind of work through, or did you have fears, or was it basically just like the business aspects of like the unknowns that you've maybe never had to do before that you now had to figure out?
I think, to be honest, the biggest obstacle I faced was probably finding capital, and I think people underestimate how much money it takes to start a food brand. And I think, at first a lot of people told me I was crazy because frozen is the hardest category. It's not a category that's shopped in grocery stores. Like, people go to frozen for frozen. You can't have major displays or massive displays in the front of the store like you can with chips or candy. It's a tough category. So a lot of people told me I was crazy for starting off in frozen. But I also knew that, there was an untapped category there with like easy smoothies. And we actually did pioneer a whole new category. So, and because we did that, we were offered like, premium shelf space. Like, people wanted to support it. We were given like multiple facings in stores. Like, I still walk into some stores like, Fresh Street West Van, and I'll see 6 facings on an A shelf. And I'm like, wow, that's Blender Bites, like, we're competing against Europe's Best and these major, Snowcrest Foods and these major brands. And here we are, just this little company. So I think if you're creating a product that's innovative and it's unique, then, that's what consumers want, and that's what the stores want, because that's going to draw attention and, from consumers. They're going to come in to get these unique products. So, it's unfortunate some retailers like Loblaws who have $1 million listing fees, they're preventing small brands and they're preventing the innovation. So, from getting to their consumers, which is unfortunate. So, I've had a lot of support from retailers, but yeah, I'd say definitely the capital, I think, is the hardest. I don't think there's a lot of government support for startups, and the funds. There's a lot of funds out there and institutions, but they want to see you doing, 3 to 5 million in revenue before they'll even look at you. So there's definitely, a need for that initial startup capital, but it's high risk, and anyone that wants to come in will, obviously request, or demand a lot of equity too. And you don't want to give up half your company right away in the first year. I mean, that's where a lot of people end up, creating a job for themselves rather than a business, because they're giving away majority of their company to get going, right? So again, I was lucky that I had some connections from my previous life in the capital markets and some people that really believed in me. Yeah, but it's a struggle for most people to get going, and they definitely underestimate how much money you're going to need to start a company. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I've heard from other companies how hard it is to get into grocery stores.
Yeah,
and how costly it can be as well.
Yep, it's costly. We just paid a pretty large fee, listing fee to Sobeys. They were great though. They came down significantly from what they initially requested because they support small business. So props to Sobeys. But then, you have to put product on discount. So you have quarterly promotions. So every time you walk into a grocery store and you see something for 15 to 20% off being advertised at that store, it's not the store that takes that hit. It actually gets back to the vendor. So it's Blender Bites that's eating that money. It's not the actual store. So the discounts, there's marketing support with flyer ads. They all cost a lot of money. Yes, it's very tough. Grocery is not an easy business to be in. Yeah, you need to, I think, direct to consumer is sort of the way to go. You can sell direct to consumer, e-commerce. It's definitely cutting out the middlemen, cutting out the distributors, saving that 20-25% is essential, I think, for the future of business for sure.
Crazy. All right. That's a lot of information. When it came to knowledge that you didn't have when you were creating your business, or even nowadays, if you come across anything that you're just not familiar with in business, how do you get that information? Do you get it from courses or mentors, or do you source out books, podcasts, things like that? Like, what avenues did you take to get more information on how to be successful in your business?
Yeah, I'd say probably my biggest takeaway for anyone starting a business is build your network. I actually am blessed that I have a very significant network. I have a lot of entrepreneurial friends. that have started companies, that have sold companies, and so I rely on them heavily. I'm calling people probably every day about different things. I'm getting advice from them, asking questions. What did they do? I learn from a lot of their mistakes. So I'm very fortunate to have a very solid network. So I would say, like your network is your net worth. I believe in that. Surround yourself with people that are successful, more successful than you, and it always pays off in the end. So that's been my biggest, having mentors. But even before I started Blender Bites, I knew that Charles was going to be somebody that I wanted to have in my life, and so I used him as a sounding board, even to this day. And I've been very grateful for all the advice he's given me. Yeah, and just making those connections and staying close to people and building really solid friendships with people that have sort of offer a mutual benefit there.
I love that advice. It's so important to network.
Yes. Yeah.
So many connections and opportunities and whatnot can come out of those networking opportunities.
Yeah, I had a good example actually last night. There's a chain in Ontario called Longo's, which is 35 stores, and it's a really kind of a nice, beautiful high-end grocery market. And we've been trying to get Blender Bites in there, for I'd probably say over 6 months now. And for various different reasons, it just wasn't working out. So I actually had somebody call me last night, and they said, "Oh, hey Chelsea, I just got off the phone with Mike Longo. So we're going to be I'll be sending you an email tonight and getting Blender Bites in the store," just because he knew the owner, the owner of the chain. So it happens all the time to me where it's like somebody that I just know, a connection, a friend of mine, has done me a favor and it's paid off big time.
That's amazing. I love that. Congratulations on that. That's a
Thank you.
huge win for you.
Yeah, exactly. Very exciting.
So how do you set yourself up for success? So when you start your day, how do you make sure that you are setting yourself up to be able to tackle everything on your list and be able to come out of it feeling great and accomplished?
Well, learning to work from home, I work from home still. It's a challenge. It's, something that it really takes training and, it takes time to sort of get into a groove with. So, I've been working from home now for 6 years, so I feel like I've kind of got a good groove, but, I think starting your morning off productively is really important. So, every night before I go to bed, I always sort of have a list on my desk of everything that I need to accomplish, and I kind of prioritize things. So I know exactly when I wake up the next morning what I need to do. But I also don't put too much pressure on myself. Like, if I don't get certain things done during the day, then, I actually work the best at night. So I'll sit in front of my TV and I'll watch Friends and I'll just pump out my emails. Like, I don't feel like I have to put tons of pressure on myself. I think if you had a family or young children or something, that would be a little bit tougher. But I have a lot of free time and flexibility. So I feel like I'm always able to accomplish what I need to during the day or at night.
That's amazing advice. I love that. And I think a lot of people are going to benefit from that, especially in this time with COVID, where
Yeah.
a lot of people, including myself, are now forced to work from home, which is a huge adjustment. I'm not going to
Yes.
lie. I do my side hustle from home, which is fine, but being home for the full-time job and being home all day now in a different environment and whatnot, it's completely different.
Yeah, you have to get into a really good mindset, and you just sort of sometimes I'll set a timer, and I won't allow myself to get up from my desk for an hour or 45 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it's going to be. And, I just force myself to stay focused. And I'm a big proponent of mushroom coffee, Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee. I love it. It helps me focus every day. It's definitely been a game changer for me.
I love that stuff. That stuff is actually really, really good.
Amazing. Yeah. Lion's mane is great for focus.
So when you're having an off day, because obviously life isn't perfect, life is gonna throw you curveballs, just like you've experienced last night, and it kind of throws you off your game for the day after, and maybe you're just not feeling inspired or you're just feeling down one day. How do you handle those days? How do you navigate it so that you're still continuing to show up for your business?
I continually, will just like go outside and go for seawall walks. I live on the seawall. So, I'll go and say, okay, I'm going to take an hour. I'm going to go for a seawall walk, or I'll go down and I'll get a massage. Like, I do that probably twice a week. And I think like self-care, but also like the talk in your mind. Like, I never make myself feel guilty for going and getting a massage or going for a walk or even taking the afternoon off if I want to, because I just know that I'll get my stuff done. And I think like one of the biggest reasons why, I'm able to be an entrepreneur and work by myself on my own is that I really don't ever make myself feel bad about anything. If I don't accomplish something during the day, then I just know I'll do it on the weekend. Like, why get upset about it, or why, stress out about it? Like, I'll get it done. Right. So I'm pretty good at like, positive self-talk and just releasing guilt. Like, I just don't really feel guilty about anything. So I think that's important because it's an emotion that doesn't do any good. It just sort of, makes you feel worse about yourself. So, going outside for a walk or like I said, getting a massage or getting your nails done, like I'm very much, I have a very good balance in my life. I'd have to say, even though I work a lot, I definitely take time for myself, which is important.
I think that's so important to remember.
Yeah.
When you're an entrepreneur, you want to give 150% to your business, and it's kind of always on in your brain to a certain level. But even like I've had to remind myself, I'm a human being.
Right.
I am not living to be an entrepreneur or to work or to, solely do everything on my task list. I need to enjoy life. I need to nurture myself. I'm okay, just like today, I'm like, I need to take the day and just veg and put on like a bunch of
Totally.
movies. And,
Yeah.
Yes, I do have things to do, but they're going to get done later on tonight or even tomorrow morning.
Exactly. I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. Like, I put a lot of pressure on, certain things when I have to execute, when we're doing a product launch or something. But like day to day, I don't feel a lot of pressure. And I think that's just something that maybe I've been brought up with, or I've always had, I've had very supportive parents, or, it's just, I don't know. I just think it's important that you just sort of like, you just be kind to yourself. I think that's the biggest thing you can do. And, a lot of people get burnout, and especially entrepreneurs, and they just sort of have mental breakdowns because they have a lot of pressure on themselves or these, emotions that sort of, eat away at them. And it's not healthy.
Yeah. And that leads me into my next question. Have you ever experienced a burnout? Have you ever felt complete exhaustion because you were go, 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 maybe back in that time where you were working evenings and weekends? How did you come out of it? Did you put boundaries in place so that you didn't experience that again?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I think probably the burnout more so was when we were manufacturing. So it was more of like a physical exhaustion because, we're in a cold environment and we're in and out of freezers and, I'm working every weekend. When I was working 7 days a week. So I think that was it. But, I had my family with me. So that's kind of what got me through. And, we would just like have laughs and we would turn up the radio and we would dance while we were making product and we would just laugh and we would all cry together, So I think because I had that family support, got me through it. I don't think I've actually had like, a real burnout where I could say I've wanted to give up. If I have days where I start to feel like that, then I just take a day off. I sort of try and nip it in the bud before it gets to be really bad. But, I'm also at that stage now where our company is sort of, it's growing and we're a real company now. It's, sold nationally across Canada and we're in some big retailers. So I don't know, ask me that question in a year. It might be a different answer.
Sounds good. So what does self-love mean to you and what does your practice look like today?
Well, I think, self-love starts with yourself. So again, it comes back to that self-talk. I don't really ever catch myself sort of doubting myself or negative self-talk or, I think it's really important that you just sort of stay positive. And, if I start to feel like I'm down on myself, I'll call one of my mentors or I'll call one of, somebody in my network and they'll tell me to snap out of it. I think it's important to be real, and a lot of people don't necessarily communicate how they're feeling. So, I'll pick up the phone and I'll tell my mom and I'll vent to my mom or whoever, and she just sort of talks me out of it. So you have to be sort of, open with the people in your life that, can make you feel better. And there's no point holding it inside. You have to actually get it out there and tell the world how you're feeling. But yeah, it's important, like I said, just to stay healthy. And I think your mind is your mind is everything, right? It starts with you. So eating right, taking the right supplements. I take a lot of supplements that help me calm down too. I take things like L-theanine, which is derived from green tea, which is sort of like a natural calm sedative. So that helps me at night. Or I take CBD oil if I'm feeling a little anxious. So I think, you got to do your own research. I've researched what sort of works and I figured out what works for me. And, just sort of the exercise. I do yoga, my Siwa walks. That's like my time, or even getting in my car and I like to drive fast and I throw on my music and I put on some rap and I drive really fast and I feel good. That's like my little vent. So
That sounds awesome. All right. So I want to know what is on the horizon for Blender Bites. So I know you have that new product coming out.
yeah, the Vita smoothie. Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's about developing new SKUs. Plant-based protein is really important, and it's a hot topic right now. So our next product will be a protein. Will include some sort of a plant-based protein in it. We were working on our e-commerce platform, so we actually just launched our new website last week, and it's been built with a Shopify platform, so we can add an e-commerce store onto our website. So looking at building out that. But we've got, Sobeys, Safeway, Urban Fresh across Canada that we're launching right now. So that's our main focus, is just to make sure that that's a success. I think it's important that you don't necessarily grow too fast. You have to make sure you're successful in the accounts that you're actually in. So, building slowly but steady, and, getting the right partners in place. We finally got a great manufacturing partner in Ontario. So we've actually moved all of our business to Ontario now. Our distribution partners based there. We're doing a food service launch. So Gordon Food Service has launched us for a pilot program in Ontario. So that's going to be for all the hotels and cafes and airports and stadiums. So we offer a food service product as well, which is an amazing product for anybody that wants to, save labor costs and, mitigate any kind of employee error when making a smoothie. So we're excited to be launching that. We're talking to Costco right now. We're talking to Save on Foods right now. So we've got a lot in the pipeline, that's for sure.
Wow, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear how all that goes, and congratulations on everything coming up. And I'm definitely going to be trying that new flavor when it comes out.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
So if anybody wants to learn more about you, where is the best place to connect with you? Where do you hang out the most?
Well, I'm at home, so you can come over for a coffee if you want, or a glass of wine. Oh yeah, wine's a good thing too. I drink lots of wine. But you know what? Anyone can send me an email. I'm pretty open. I'm very candid. I'd like to, sort of tell my story and help wherever I can. I've been, very fortunate that I've had a lot of people step up for me in my life and help me when I needed it. And I'm here to do the same. So people can email me, Chelsea@blenderbites.com. Go to my website. You can fill out a little form there, so you can get in direct contact with me there. That's probably the easiest, through my email.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that people will probably want to reach out because you have such great advice to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, for anyone that wants to start a food company, I've got a lot of connections with manufacturing facilities and distribution partners too. So if I can do anything to help, I'm willing to.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chelsea. Well, thank you for taking the time, Chelsea, to share your story, your advice, and your experience with us. I know many are going to learn from it, and it definitely gives them insight on how to start their own businesses, which is awesome.
Great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.